a typical family, I think, probably has more to do with how they interact than actually who's in the family. And so I think in the field right now, we've um, gotten past trying to define it as this specific constellation of people and looking at it as how are they interacting with one another. And I think sociopolitically that's true, where in our culture today there's not near the specific categories of what it means to be a family. There's more of a fluidity. I think she's from Nigeria. I think it's Nigeria. But she tells a story of going into a presentation where somebody says to her, I read such and such a book, and it's too bad that Nigerian husbands are so abusive to their wives. And her comeback I thought was classic. She said, I just got done reading American Psycho, and it's too bad American men are all axe murderers. And so I think that was a great example of, if media is taken and generalizations are made from one story, I think that's when the danger comes in. When a culture or a group or a family is conveyed in a way that portrays that as the example, then I think that's a danger. My wife and I have 2 daughters, and then we adopted a son from Brazil, and then we have 2 sons. So our middle child is an adoptive son from Brazil, and he's black. And so there are lots of times where in public questions are asked about if he's a friend of, because he's the same age as our second child. He's about 8 months younger. So we have a 14-year-old, and then he and the second child are both 12 right now. And so people will ask if they're friends. So I think that's pretty common. I think stereotypes are way more common than we think. So that's one. But I mean, another even simpler example would be, I have 5 kids, and so it's amazing the amount of times here in Nebraska that I get asked if I'm Catholic, which I'm not. But it's just this assumption of, oh, you have a lot of kids, you must be Catholic, which I think is an interesting, kind of bizarre stereotype too. As a parent, I could totally identify with the interaction that went on. And I think that as a parent, I think it was very simple for people to identify with the interaction. The kiddo goes to the mom, asks mom a question to corroborate what dad has said or to get more information on what dad has said, and then turns around and uses that information to justify their own behavior. That's a classic family move where a child is playing off of parents. And so you can drop any constellation of parents into that scenario, and it still looks the same. It still looks the same. And so when I watched it, I thought, that's a great commercial. I love the commercial. And so then to see the backlash was really surprising, because when you and I talked on the phone, you said that there had been a lot of backlash. So when I watched it, I was looking for, is Cheerios trying to play something out in terms of the multiracial family? Are they trying to play that out and trying to tap into that as a marketing ploy? But it didn't seem like that at all. I mean, they weren't trying to capitalize on this as a multiracial family and we're conveying this with the intent of being a multiracial family. They were just conveying this is a family. The danger of stereotypes is that well, the danger in overcoming that is that then when we get to know that person, what we're really looking is for the stereotypes instead of actually just getting to know that person. And so I think the way that you then break those is try to get out of your box of stereotypes. I think media helps that when they portray individuals in non-stereotypical roles, settings. There's a lot of controversy around the Cosby Show and what it did, but in the 80s, it was revolutionary in that it portrayed a black family that had struggles and challenges and interactions that you could have generalized to any other population. And so I know since then there's been a lot of conflict about whether it was trying to portray a black family as a white family, and there's been a lot of controversy around the Cosby Show, but it did break a lot of stereotypes. It broke a lot of those. This is how black families are, and resonated. And the fact that it was a phenomenally popular show in the era says they were able to bridge that, and people forgot. People weren't watching it to see what black families were like. They were watching it because the humor and the setting resonated with them as a whatever family they were. Whether they were white, Latino, Asian, whatever, it resonated with them. I think when media portrays groups in atypical stereotypes, that's very